disappointment. She knew that Reginald had sent word to several shops in the village on Wednesday, serving them notice on their contracts. He had suggested that the properties on High Street would be put up for sale, but he hadn't said anything about the new owners, nor why they had no interest in keeping the little supermarket, the hobby shop, and the cafe as tenants. A delegation of villagers had come to see Daphne in an attempt to get her to talk some sense into her nephew. But what they failed to understand was that there was nothing she could do. The properties were his, just like Tawny Hall would be once she was dead. Her books would one day be his too. Daphne had spent her life at Tawny Hall, but it also meant so much more to her than that. The house gave her a sense of history, binding her to the men and women who had come before, as though she was a chapter in a fascinating story that had begun long before she was born. There was magic in the walls here, an intoxicating mix of time and place, memory and opportunity. Sometimes, as she sat in the library, she actually found herself forgetting what century she lived in. But the spell hadn't proved strong enough to stand up to Reginald. In the face of his hostility, the glittering exterior fell away, leaving nothing but the damp, the dust, the cobwebs, the faded wallpaper, and the books that had been shoved in panic into every nook and cranny in an attempt to prevent them from taking over the house completely. Given half a chance, he would get rid of the lot of it. He would throw out the furniture and her collection, or the junk, as he called the memories she had gathered over a long and rich life. He would get rid of her. On the other side of the lawn, Reginald raised his teacup in a mocking toast. Daphne turned away, but she could still feel his eyes on her. His presence forced her to see herself through his eyes, old and wrinkly, with thin lips and small eyes, loose skin hanging from her arms. How did he know that when she always wore long sleeves? And worst of all, ridiculous in her old-fashioned dresses and the wig she wore to hide her bald spot. Daphne still thought of herself as young and beautiful, but it was as though Reginald could see the portrait of Dorian Gray hidden in the attic. Oh, why had he come here? She'd been so happy here before Reginald turned up and ruined everything. Daphne took a bite of her scone. It seemed to grow in her mouth, and she sipped her champagne in an attempt to wash it down. Even that tasted stale, like old apples and rot, and the relentless passage of time, and she searched irritably for somewhere to put her plate. In the end, her secretary and right-hand woman, Margaret, took it away. She returned a short while later, carrying a new bottle of champagne, and she filled Daphne's glass without a word. "Bit of a tense atmosphere," said Margaret, as prosaic as ever. She was the kind of person who would look out at the flood, turn to Noah, and say, "Looks like a spot of rain." "Yes, it is rather," Daphne agreed. Right then, much too late, she remembered the angry man's name. He was a Samson, not a Smith, the owner of the little supermarket in the village. "How are we for champagne?" she asked. "Stock levels are good," Margaret replied. "Then there's nothing more we can do," thought Daphne. Where was Berit Gardner? She surveyed her guests' glum faces and found herself wondering just how many of them were fantasizing about killing someone. She counted in her head. At least 5 of them wanted to kill her nephew, and at least 1 wanted to kill her. 1. Staying alive, bam, 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 staying alive. Berit Gardner hummed to herself as she ironed a white shirt on the table in her Spartan kitchen. She was wearing her best going-out jeans and had a corduroy jacket and 2 scarves waiting for her on the back of the chair. She was looking forward to the tea party at Tawny Hall with a mix of anticipation and fear, considerably more of the latter. What if she didn't find them there? What if she didn't hear?